Well, hello there. It is Wealth Building Wednesday with Sheila and Kate. And we're
Yes.
here to educate you about all things wealth in real estate as well. So I'll have some information at the end of this about some real estate tips about what we're going to talk about today. But today we are going to talk about peace of mind planner. And Kate was sharing some topics about estate planning that I didn't realize. My mother-in-law died a couple years ago, and I never even thought about all of this stuff. There were some things I knew, but she told me about some things that I thought we need to talk about this. So here we are. We're ready to talk about it. And today we're just going to cover what happens to a car lease, what's required for a life insurance policy, which is vitally important if you don't want to not be able to access your money. How long does it take to pay out? And then what the funeral home needs. And then again, I'll have some information at the end. But Kate, go ahead. I'm gonna give it all to you, and you just
Just
throw
run with it.
value on people. That's what we're here for, is just to
Yep.
educate them.
All right. So first, if you could pop up my disclaimer, that would be
Oh
fabulous
yeah.
because this is hugely important. While I have been through this process with many, many clients, I am not an attorney of any kind, estate planning or otherwise. And all correspondence information from me or Money EQ Coach are just thoughts, information provided. I do have an extensive background in the financial industry. However, I encourage you, before you make any financial, tax, or legal decisions, to please contact your advisor per your specific situation. So, again, not an attorney, but been through this many times with clients.
Right.
So, the first thing that I want to share is nobody likes to talk about this, right? Nobody likes to talk about their own death or the death of a loved one. So, for example, in my family, it's my sister, myself, and my parents. And being that this is sort of what I do in the financial world, I've always had open communication and conversations with my parents because I don't want to be the one to try to figure it all out, in the end, right? My sister hates it, does not like to talk about it, and just sort of defers everything to me, which, if you've heard me speak, is not the way to go. But, she sort of figures that in my world, I'll handle it, right? So I understand that. Nobody likes to talk about it. However, it's something that if you prepare ahead of time for, and this can be two ways, really. It can be you talking to your parents and getting everything lined up that way. And most definitely an estate planning attorney can help you. But if it can go two ways, it can be you preparing for your children or your heirs, whoever they may be, so that they don't have to then dig through and figure out. Or it can be you working with your parents to get everything lined up. Over the many years of walking through managing estates, people collecting on life insurance policies, that sort of thing, and helping people, and particularly women whose husbands have passed away, I developed what I call the peace of mind planner. Now, I understand funeral homes, cemeteries, estate planning attorneys. Everybody will give you a free notebook or worksheet to collect everything. What's different with mine is that it is all in one, and it provides you information on what to expect. So what does happen when someone who has a lease on a car passes away, right? It addresses all of these different things that nobody, like, you don't think about, oh my gosh, what do I do with that, until it happens, until
Right.
you're in the middle of it, right?
You're right.
And I've
You're right.
heard all sorts of different suggestions on that. And I've heard people say, well, just don't pay it off, let it go, whatever, to pay it off with life insurance and move on. Well, there's several different pieces to this puzzle, right? So if there are assets held by the person who's passed away, the leasing company, depending on how the lease is written up, and they are different, has a right to be compensated by the estate. So it's not it's not just a black and white, here's exactly what you do. What it is you need to take a look at the situation that you're in. If there's a very large estate, then you bet your bottom dollar they're coming for it, right? They're coming for all the debts to be paid off, whether it's a credit card, a mortgage, whatever. So, and this is totally where an estate planning attorney can help you out in a huge way. There's a reason, there's a designation within being an attorney that they focus on estate planning, because there's so much to it. I am just scratching the surface here for you of things to think about. Now, if someone passes away and they don't have a whole lot of assets and things like that, then maybe it is something to consider to just let it be repoed or what have you, right? But it's something that you definitely need to talk to somebody about before you do it, because what can happen, well, what will happen when someone passes away is everything that they own and everything that they owe is part of their estate, right? So debts have to be paid. Notices are public. So if there is someone out there, even like a land contract or whatever that is owed, they will try to collect. Most likely.
Right. Nothing is free. Nothing is ever free.
Just guessing.
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind, it is public. There is a public notice when someone passes away, so that there is an opportunity for those to come along and collect debts that are owed to them from the estate that is left behind. So that gets into all sorts of questions, right? What counts in the estate, da, da, da. I don't want to get into all that. I'm not an estate planning attorney on this section of our Wealth Building Wednesday. I just want to point out that there are things that you need to be aware of before you decide, oh, I'm just going to let it go to collections and be repoed. Be cognizant, because if there is an estate there that has assets,
they're going to come after the estate every single time.
Absolutely, they will.
If they can, they will.
Absolutely.
So, yep. That's why having all of your ducks in a row beforehand,
Absolutely.
and again, going back to I don't want to talk about, like, death is inevitable for each and every one of us. And if you figured out a way,
baby.
if you figured out a way to escape it, let me know. I'd be
right.
I'd love to do a video with you, but death is inevitable for each of us, and we don't know when it's going to happen. And you have got to be prepared for when that happens to either yourself or your loved one, especially if you do have an estate where you have a home or you have a car or you have bank accounts or things like that. You have got to be prepared. So, so touch on that life insurance policy, and what's required for it, because this is very crucial if you want to be able to have that money for the funeral, which is why most people have that life insurance policy. At least, part of it is. So if you can touch on that, that would be great.
Absolutely. Now, this is another one where there's a million variables that could possibly happen, right? But generally, if you are the beneficiary on someone's life insurance policy, when you go in, you obviously have to notify the company, and they will generally have claims forms. So you need to fill those out. You need to provide a death certificate for the person who's passed away. That's sort of the beginning, right? Now, where it kind of can get tricky is if there was any question about the manner of death, right? So if it's an accident, the insurance company might require police reports, documentation that way. If there's any lawsuit around it, that's going to hold everything up longer. Medical records, things like that. So especially if someone is murdered, then that just creates a whole lot more. If it's just, someone passes away, older, passes away, natural causes, blah, 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 then it's a pretty simple process. It does take time, however, because you don't just send everything in and they go, okay, we believe you, right? You have to prove who you are. So a license or passport or some sort of documentation that says who you are. They will check the records of the policy to determine that you were the rightful beneficiary. If there is more than one beneficiary, every single beneficiary needs to fill out the claim form and provide all of the necessary documentation, their identifying documents, that sort of thing. And it's generally not a horrible process. I mean, obviously someone's passed away and it's not a great thing. However, it's not super tricky unless there was some qualifying circumstance around the death. In that case, then it can take a long time. Generally, though, if it's a pretty simple process, then it can be 2 weeks to a couple months to pay out, which people then go, well, what's the point? I wanted to, the purpose of this was to pay the funeral home, so on and so forth. Oftentimes, funeral homes will allow you to wait and understand that you're collecting life insurance, and then they will collect after you've received that.
Yeah, we had that happen with my brother. My brother died in a snowmobile accident, and we didn't have the money to pay for his funeral, and it was our first experience going to the funeral home, and that was exactly their, they have their script that they go through, and that's what they said. They said, when you get your life insurance, this is we'll get that money from them. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. And depending on the funeral home, they may have paperwork that they require you to sign and the whole thing. However, it depends, completely depends, right? But generally it can be time-wise, it can be a couple of weeks to, I've seen where there were extenuating circumstances around the death. It can be years. So just understand that. As far as other assets, I just want to note that there are lots of people that are putting transfer on death on their accounts, which is great. You don't want to have somebody. Okay, so I'll use myself as an example. If it's just myself and say my daughter, okay, on an account, that's not good. Because if I name her as part owner of the account and she goes and does something and is sued, then that account can be considered part of that lawsuit, right? So what they do is they offer, and this is at the bank, this is any investment account, this is anything along those lines. Not anything that's a retirement fund because you name beneficiaries on those, but anything that is like a bank account, savings account, or just an individual brokerage account, that sort of thing. You can name someone as the transfer on death. It's called a TOD. And it's a simple form, and it's basically filled out like a beneficiary form for those kinds of accounts. So you don't want to have like a co-ownership situation just because the legal ramifications can be tricky. But what you do want to do is make sure that you name someone in the transfer on death, because then all that they have to do is basically show that they're the beneficiary, although it's a transfer on death. It's just tax code differentiation on this stuff. Right. But that's important because I think a lot of people have gotten into the habit or process or been told to add someone to the account, right? So that person automatically takes over. However, that just puts those assets at risk if there were any legal action to be taken against either side, right? So I just always like to share that because people are like, well, I can put, a beneficiary on my IRA or my 401k or whatever the retirement plan is, but I can't on my checking account, right? Obviously, first it goes to your spouse, but you can, if your spouse were to pass away, I would strongly suggest then after managing that process, putting a transfer on death onto the account. So name whoever it is. Just because then it allows them faster access to the assets that are in question with that.
Exactly.
It just simply makes it so that you go in, you show the same documentation, death certificate, proof of who you are, and if they have the planner all set up, they'll have the transfer on death copy of the form in that as well.
Really good
And
stuff.
then the last really topic, and then I'll run through sort of show what the peace of mind planner is, because it's at like 65 pages at the moment, a few more tweaks to go. But most of the time people go, okay, well, great. What really happens at the funeral home, right? Somebody passes away. What really happens at the funeral home? And how do I prepare for that? Well, first of all, understand that the funeral home, the employees there have been through it before, right? They will walk you through absolutely everything. They will help you get all sorts of legal documentation taken care of, all sorts of things, right? So the death certificate itself actually comes from the medical examiner's office if necessary, kind of thing. But they can help facilitate that as well, right? They will need identification of the deceased. They will obviously help you get or want the death certificate. Any prearrangement documentation that you've got, and there are sections in the peace of mind planner that address that, as far as your wishes or the person who's passed away's wishes upon their death. So they will take those prearrangement documents and follow it to the T. Family information, the obituary, if you've already put that together, which this does walk you through how to do that as well, like things to think about. It's a little odd to do, for sure. Totally get that. However, it's definitely worthwhile. And I feel like, especially for my parents' generation, there's a lot of things that they've done in life and experienced that we don't know, right? So it's definitely worth a conversation with them, because you don't want to lose that information about them.
Right. I actually have an example of that. My mother-in-law died in 2021. She opened an account. She opened a bank account, didn't tell my husband about it, and she didn't do any review of her documents every year. And when she passed away, we had to go through hoops to try and get to that bank account, which had a significant amount of money in it. So you always, I feel, want to make sure that you review that stuff
Yeah,
every year so that way
absolutely.
so that way you're just kind of checking in and saying, okay, what did I do each year? And have that meeting with your family. It's okay to talk
Mhm.
about death. It's okay
It
to go
is.
over that with your family, because they need to be up to date on that information all the time. So,
Mhm. And although it's not the most comfortable conversation to start off and have, I have yet to have someone say to me, yeah, that was terrible. Never should have sat down and done that. Everybody walks away going, okay, I feel better. I know that for my heirs or the people I'm leaving behind, they know what my wishes are. It's all written down. They have to think about it.
yep.
Right? It's done. And like for my parents, I know my parents, it's not a great conversation. Nobody, but they walk away from it going, okay, it's all taken care of. Everybody the family knows what our wishes are, right? I
Well,
mean,
and I think it used to be taboo, though, to talk about
absolutely,
finances. It used to be
absolutely.
taboo to talk about these things, and to talk about, like, I know with my my mom in specific, she would never talk about her finances, and
Oh no.
that's kind of the worst thing that you can do, because if something were to happen to you, then nobody knows anything, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And also, even with like life insurance, when it pays out, there are different options that the person who owns life insurance policy can choose how it pays out.
Yeah.
There's also, it can, when you're the beneficiary, you can't change how they've chosen for it to pay out to you. But if they've said lump sum or whatever, then they will always present you with other options on how to have it pay out to you. And so in that vein, I would absolutely talk to somebody who does not stand to gain financially from you making a decision on how you want it to pay out.
Exactly.
Because they'll come at you to sell annuities and all sorts of things. But yeah, so the funeral home's job, really, just to get back on that, is to help you through the process. And they're professional. That's what they do. So if you have questions, you absolutely can go to them and ask them. They will go through all of it, from A to Z on, cremation, what kind of urn, what kind of casket you want if you're not being, the whole thing.
The whole gamut, and they've seen everything. So
Absolutely.
it's not like the wheel's being reinvented every time,
Absolutely.
or that they haven't seen your type of scenario. That this is their specialty, this is what they do, and
Absolutely.
they know it. So
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, that's their vocation, right? It's their job, it's their profession. So they'll even walk you through how to choose what somebody should wear in the casket,
exactly.
the whole thing. So I know it's scary and it's daunting because there's and that revolves around the decision making, right?
Yep.
It's scary and daunting because it's unknown and there's a lot of decisions that have to be made, and pretty quickly. So it's not like you can say, okay, I'm going to just soak this all in, let me process. I mean, it is a fairly quick process to work through, but they will coach you through it. They will advise you. They will help you in any way that they can. Absolutely. So I have, I'm doing at this point for the Peace of Mind Planner, because there are more things that I want to put in here, and I expect it to be completed 100% in the next week or two. But there's all sorts of information. This is the cover, which we have a picture of, but it does go through, it's like 70 pages, 65, 70 pages of spots to fill in things. I mean, even down to your pets and what happens with your pets and things like that. How different documentation works as far as if you have minors and things like that. I mean, all of it is covered. And it also provides, like I said, the information for the person who's going to receive this and be working from it on what to expect from the funeral home, what to expect from, probate or an estate planning attorney, or how all of it, how to navigate basically closing someone's estate after they've passed. And I call it Peace of Mind Planner because it gives both sides a peace of mind.
Exactly.
It gives the person who it's for peace of mind, knowing it's all documented and it's all understood. And by the way, just getting it and filling it out doesn't do it. You need to have conversations about it as well and let people know where to find it, whether it's stored on your computer or in a binder on the shelf or what have you. But so, yeah.
And I also want to interject that, a lot of times when you have conversations, if you don't write these things down, they're not remembered by everybody the same way. So at
Correct.
least if it's written down, it's concrete, right? Like it's there. No, you can't disseminate it differently. It's
It
written
is.
down
Yeah.
properly. So yeah.
Now,
I'm
obviously, going through this, filling it out does not make it a legal document. It does not,
correct.
but it does provide direction for those who are left behind to
Exactly.
settle everything.
And then second to that is when you're going through, and this is just from experience, when you're going through that death, sometimes
Mhm.
it's a shocker, like it was for my brother. You're not even thinking straight. So you have to have something that you can go back to have that step 1, step 2, step
Mhm.
3. Like, these are the things that I need to do, because you're just not thinking straight at that time.
Yeah.
You're just not. So,
Yeah.
yep. And
Absolutely.
and as far as the funeral goes too, I wanna, because this has happened to me several times, make sure that you take somebody with you that isn't emotionally connected. Um,
Mhm.
I I use that as a suggestion because they're gonna hear things that you're just not, in the heat of
Yeah.
emotion, you're just not gonna hear it. Even though the person might have said it 5 times, you're just not gonna hear it because
Yeah.
you're not gonna get everything, because your mind is in 20 different places.
Yeah.
So, make sure you have somebody there that's not emotionally connected, that can at least take notes for you.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep,
Um, and and like you said, it's an emotional time. And it doesn't matter if the person who passed is 89 years old or 45. It's an emotional time.
exactly.
Um, and this just allow and whether you use this or not, just getting everything together and written down on paper and sharing with your loved ones, that just provides one less weight on the shoulders at that point in time.
Exactly.
Um, and why not? I feel like it's a conversation that everybody should have.
100%.
Simply because it provides peace for both sides. It's one less issue to work through. It's one less question unanswered. It's one all of that. So it allows the opportunity for conversation. And I mean, that's so valuable, especially when you never know. You never know.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, where can they we're gonna put a link to that peace of mind planner. We're gonna
Yep.
put that in the link in the description. We're gonna put it in the comment. Like, you're gonna be able to access that. Also, there's gonna be a QR code at the end of this that will take you to Kate's pages. So
Yep.
I really just want to quickly touch on it, just a few things that I
Yes.
want to add. Um, just from my own experience and then from the real estate side. So, as I had said before, just make sure you review your trust, your will, your estate on a yearly basis. You're always getting together during the holidays. Maybe you do it at that point because you're already
Yep.
getting together. Like, it's
Right.
not an extra thing that you have to do, right? So do that, and then review your bank accounts, your beneficiary info, also on a yearly basis. Do it at the same time that you're reviewing your trust and things like that. Um, Make sure that if there's a house situation, that you get a ladybird deed created for all of the siblings, and what's going to happen with that house afterwards. That piece helps. There's more to it than just that. So get with your real estate professional or your estate planning professional for those pieces. And then the last thing, and again, this will all be covered in Kate's peace of mind planner. But the last thing is passwords and pins. I'm going to tell you a weird thing that happened twice. So my brother died in 2012. The day before, it was either the day before the, I think it was the day before. But anyways, he came over so I could fix his computer, and he said, "This is my password for all my stuff." And he ended up dying a day later, 2 days later. It was the weirdest. It just was
It
crazy.
is.
And
It is.
so, because he told me that, we were
You
able
were
to get
able to
into
get into it.
all of his documents, all his computer things, all his files. And then I had a friend just die recently, and she did the same thing with another
Mhm.
friend. She told her, like, this is my
Mhm.
pin and things like that. So
Yeah.
in that peace of mind planner, you're just gonna
It's
put
all
all
in
of
there,
that
spaces
very
for everything.
important information that you just don't think about. And again, you got to review that on a yearly basis. That is, I would say, out of all of this, having that planner and reviewing it yearly is the crucial part of it, because things change from year to year. So,
Absolutely.
yep.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so any final thoughts on just the peace of mind planner? I'm going to go into what we're going to talk about in the next one.
Just because I haven't launched it yet, it is not actually up on my website, but there is a sign up purchase to get. So I did put that link in the comments on here. I don't know if you can see it.
Okay. Yep. It's in the
I
private
will,
chat, but we'll get that.
yes. So if
I'm
you
gonna
go
see if I
to
can put that
that,
in the
it'll give you
comments.
all of the information how to get it. Kind
Perfect.
of
I'm
thing.
putting it in the comments now. It should be in the comments on the live stream, both on YouTube, and we'll get it in the other one. So for
And
sure,
then,
you'll be able to find it. Just look in the description or the comments for sure.
yes. Also, I wanted to just note that I do offer a 15-20 minute complimentary consultation with anybody that's interested in seeing if we would jive working together. I've had lots of people ask about that, and I always forget to mention it. So, because you never know. I mean, some people who might work well with me, might whatever. Anyway, so we can talk about how that, what that would look like. You get scan that QR code, and on that link there is a click. You can sign up, pick a time that works for you for a complimentary consultation, and go from there. The Peace of Mind Planner is not on that QR code because it is not out there yet.
No, but once they get connected to you, they can
yes,
at least
yes,
ask for it or at least sign up for it, correct?
absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
perfect. Okay, perfect.
All
All
right.
right.
Yeah,
So,
that's all I got today.
okay. That's enough. I think we've given everybody really a lot to think about. And again, most people don't think about it very often.
They don't want
It
to.
just, it just is a reminder, like we do need to think about it. So
Yeah.
with that said, next, it's not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that. So we do it every other Wednesday. We do a
Yep.
wealth building Wednesday. And next time we're going to be talking about emergency fund. And the biggest thing on this one is why credit cards are not emergency funds. Because we
Your
always
credit
think
card
everybody
is
needs our credit
not an
cards.
emergency fund.
Right. Our credit cards are not to bail us out of emergency funds.
Correct.
So we really want to keep educating everybody. And so if you can come back and check this one out, I think it will help you to, help you with that wealth building piece, not getting
Mhm.
in debt with those credit cards, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, and then finally, just my information here. I focus on just really kind of educating people on everything. Like I teach agents and I educate my clients, and I'm even a homeschool mom, so I'm a teacher there. Like that's what I love to do because I think it's so important that all of us need to be educated about processes and things that are happening because you can easily be taken advantage of if you're not educated, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, totally agree.
all right. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Take
Yeah.
care.
Take care. Bye.